riots in LA, drone strikes in Russia, one big beautiful bill, and a unbelievable catfight between Elon Musk and President Trump. This is the David Rutherford Show. Welcome to the David Rutherford Show. And have we got a show for you today? Last week was once again another absolutely tsunami of information. I started getting fatigued in a way very early on in the week, right off the bat with the Russian, the Ukrainian secret squirrel bombing of drone attacks on their strategic bomber facilities. Then moving into the one big beautiful bill controversies with new spending, and then that led into the just recently the crazy Elon Musk and Donald Trump dust up, and then we capped the whole week off with a nice little sprinkling of protesting ICE raids in Los Angeles. So Jordy, I don't know about you, man, but last week was incredibly, I mean, it was heavy.
That was a lot to take in. So I'm excited to get into it. We got to figure out what's going on, dude.
Well, and before that, just, I want to talk about, Jordy and I had this really incredible experience last week. We got to attend our very first iHeart media event. Now, for those of you who don't know, how this all works, all these media companies, whatever, and every industry has these events where they bring in their sponsors, they pay tribute to them, they connect them and all that. Well, this event was for the premier networks, led by Julie Talbot, my boss. And it was funny because they reached out and they said, "Hey, do you guys want to come to this event?" And Jordy and I were kind of like, "Well, why? Why are we getting invited?" And they're like, "Well, you're our new show in Premier Networks, and we'd love to have you." And so Jordy, my wife, and I went and attended the first cocktail night on Tuesday night, which we thought was a lot of fun. And Jordy was having a few Manhattans. I was drinking a couple Balvenis, and Jonna, I think, was what she was doing, the
espresso martini.
So we show up. And we're like, okay, let's schmooze a bit. And man, just right off the get go, the people at iHeart, all the senior executives were just wonderful. They couldn't have been more gracious to us. They said they were very happy with our performance so far. So we're really ecstatic that they're happy. And it was just great.
I just want to say that Buck's hair is better in person.
Dude, Buck Sexton's hair is absolutely some of the best hair you will ever see. Now, You mix great hair with a great voice and forget it. It's all over. It's all over.
We should have a show, honestly.
We should have a show. What's funny, though, is the guy, we really need to work on a shooting. And because I've been so busy lately, I haven't been able to get down and work with he and his brothers. Now, thankfully, DJ Shipley got an opportunity to spend about 12 hours with those boys a couple months ago. So I'm excited that at least I'll see a lot of hopefully improved movement and presentation and all the finer points that DJ and his crew are so awesome at GBRS.
You can't have everything, dude. You can't have everything.
Well, no, you can't, and much less trying to get Clay down. I mean, that's what the big thing is. That I said, "Hey, man, we got to get Clay down," and Buck was like, "Clay can't shoot to save his life." So, Clay, if you're listening, buddy, come on down. Let's prove Buck and his big, beautiful hair, his one big, beautiful hair and his beautiful voice. Let's prove him wrong, and let's get you dialed in. All right. And then on Wednesday night, Jordy had to get back to his beautiful wife who's about ready to give birth to their first child. So,
yep.
Are we getting close, Jordy?
I need to get back.
Yeah, you did. I mean, it was funny, man. It was like every time your phone would like give a text going, you'd look over and you'd be like, "Oh, is she having the baby? Is she having a baby?"
It's a valid question. It's a valid question.
I was totally, but anyways, he went home and then John and I went, and it was just wild, man. It was just so surreal. I had several people. Head of podcast sales, Bob, was incredible. Made some great introductions with some of our biggest sponsors, and I'm really hoping that we can work out some deals with these people. I met some great people who run some incredible organizations. I'm really happy, and I'm looking forward to those deals. But the highlight of the night for me was for sure Buck was introducing Glenn Beck, who Glenn had given Buck his start in media, and certainly I owe this revitalization of old Rut and his prowess behind the microphone to Buck Sexton and Clay Travis for getting me. But as he was introducing, he starts talking about being a case officer downrange, and he was like, I don't think that was anything big. I'm just interviewing people. It was these guys, right? This guy right here with the guns that helped me do that. And ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce, the newest member of the Premier Networks, and that's David Rutherford on the David Rutherford Show. And I'm sitting there and I look over and there's Glenn Beck like applauding at me. And I look over and I see Jesse Kelly, and I'm looking at Carol Markowitz, and I'm looking at all these other big, huge players in the space, man. And they're clapping. I'm like nudging John under the table, and I'm giving the Vanna White, I'm giving the Vanna White wave, Jordy, and I'm like, what the hell is going on right now,
Ruddy
dude?
Rut.
Old Ruddy Rut is at this function, man. And I'll tell you what, it was really cool. I'm not going to lie. Man. Yeah. And
everyone we met was great. Jesse Kelly's so tall, dude.
Isn't he?
He's so tall.
And even though he is a Marine, I will say I did kind of like him. And you know why I like him as much as I do, Jordy?
Why?
Because we were in a text, Buck introduced me to him on a text before the event. And, one of the first thing he says, he goes, thanks, Buck, F you. What's up, Rutherford? Nice to meet you. And I was like, oh, I'm going to like this guy. And then his second text, he started hammering me about being a Navy guy. So I dig it.
Classic.
Anyways, that was our week. In the midst of all this craziness, first, I just want to thank everybody at iHeart for bringing us on. But most importantly, I want to thank you, Jordy. Without you and your expertise as a producer and just your confidence and how you helped me get this done, dude, I wouldn't be here doing this if you weren't with me, brother. So thank you.
Of course, man. My pleasure.
All right, so let's get in the first one. I've kind of got these in order in terms of how I think they're the most significant. So the first one, obviously, was the protest against ICE in LA recently. And for me, I thought it was interesting because, ICE, along with Homeland Security, the FBI, the DEA, executed coordinated raids at multiple Los Angeles locations, 2 Home Depot stores, Ambient Apparel's headquarters in the fashion district, a donut shop, and other unspecified businesses. Now, the arrest reported that a total of 45 arrests, included collateral arrests. And I think that's what the collateral arrests were really about, these protesters that showed up in mass and started wreaking havoc. I mean, in many cases, they were starting to attack the government agents. They were starting to cause structural damage to many businesses. They were really getting pretty outrageous with how they were going. And the crowd swelled to about several hundred by 6 p.m., and, these people were waving Mexican and Central American flags, screaming, stop the deportations, ICE out of LA, no raids, no fear, immigrants are welcome here. And the one that I thought was really, what was it, Jordy? Who was the guy that was from the SEIU? Do you have that name? David Huerta. David Huerta was his name. Hey, would you look up how big the SEIU is in California for me, and what their annual budget is, and how big they are for me real quick?
Yep.
When you get that, let me know. Because I thought that was fantastic, because now all of a sudden you've got the head of one of the largest labor unions in California protesting deportations. So does that mean that the SEIU is utilizing illegals for some of their, in quotations, labor union jobs? And what does that mean for actual union employees? That was the one that I found fascinating. And why is that guy out there? But he was arrested. And what the other thing that I got some reports on is that Karen Bass, the infamous mayor of Los Angeles, who just happened to be out of the country when half the city burned down a few months ago, and still hasn't done anything to be able to clear the red tape so these people can get in and start rebuilding their communities, much like Maui. I think similar things are still happening, which I don't understand any of that. But Karen Bass was very apoplectic about this whole thing and made some comments that, this was not okay, and that this was basically harassing immigrant communities and families, putting unnecessary fear on them. And LA is a sanctuary city. And then, old Gavin, nice hair. I think Gavin Newsom might have better hair than Buck, though. I will give him that. I mean, he's a slippery son of a bitch, but I will say that he has nice hair, man.
He's on the Mount Rushmore of hair along with Buck for sure.
So I'm going to say he came out, labeled them as inhumane. Now, the impacts of these, obviously, let me back up. The one thing that I saw, which I loved, was the reaction from the government agents this time, right? I saw these, pipe-hitting dudes all kitted out, literally taking these nasty little punk kids and throwing them out of the way, getting them out of the way, conducting their jobs, doing the jobs that they were tasked to do by the President of the United States that's in line with the border policies that people voted for in this country, right? And I thought that was fantastic. What I would have loved to see is a lot more of either the sheriffs in the area or the, LAPD to support these people, but they didn't. In my estimation or assumption, just my assumption, is they were probably told to stand down and not support these raids, which is completely nuts to me. All right, because these are illegal immigrants, right? These are people that have broken the law. And the other aspect of it is, many of these people are involved in organized crime in a variety of different ways. And so to be able to see these guys get after, I even saw one video, Jordy, the infamous, I'm going to stand in front of a vehicle while it's trying to escape, right?
Yeah, good idea.
And typically in California, I think in the past, what you had is you had a lot of people that were essentially would stop their vehicles or in other places, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Dude.
And this time that dude just started picking it up, and that guy, he back. Well, I got to give him credit, man. I mean, whoever that kid was, he backpedaled for a good 150 meters. Now, backpedaling in and of itself is hard, but out of like a somewhat of a sprint, man, he made it a lot farther than I think. And then finally, he tripped on his ass and he got run over. So, am I happy that someone got injured? No. What am I happy about? I am happy that these agents are not worried about the feelings of these agitators or whoever they are, coming out and going against federal law. So, what are the immediate effects? I think these are going to increase. I think this summer is going to be one of those summers spawned by these types of ICE protests all over the country, in particular in these sanctuary cities. You will see
Summer of Love #2.
Summer of Love 2, right? 2022. I don't know. Obviously, I think because of a lot of the awareness of international aid, or not even international aid, but international NGOs, the Open Society Foundation and some of the others, and how they typically fund money into groups like Antifa, BLM, or whatever it is, we're going to see maybe a little bit of that stifled through a little bit more DOJ oversight, FBI oversight, and some of the other Homeland and some of the other organizations, because that's where the money's coming from. I mean, we saw it with the Tesla things. We saw it before. I mean, everybody remembers 2020, where all of a sudden a U-Haul van opens up and there's pre-made signs. There's stacks of bricks over in the corner in cities. So, I think it's intense. Obviously there's going to be some damage and cost, but really, I think the political ramifications long term is really to reinvigorate this Democratic base, right? That's what you see from these protests, when everybody loves a good fight. Everybody loves when people get in the mix, and that's how you get in the mix. You get in some face, you interrupt some guy who's been ordered to, remove some gang member from Venezuela or wherever, or cartel member, whatever it is. And then some kid comes up and you got some pipe hitting dude, body slams him on his head. Man, now all of a sudden you just raised $100,000 off that video clip that you post on all your socials. So, there will be some political ramifications, and definitely there's always the poor people in these communities, right? Mm-hmm. That's what always gets me the most. If you want to protest legally. I'm all about that. I think that's absolutely a part of the American ability. So get out there, but do it correctly. Don't damage anybody's property, and certainly don't put your hands on any pipe hitter or anybody, any young person or any operator that's trying to execute their dutiful and lawful orders of that. So, yeah.
So this is coming, ICE is a federal thing, right?
Right.
Right, because it's protecting the border. And so it's kind of weird to me, because you have the government on one hand conducting these raids, but it seems like also the government is against them. And it sounds like it's the state government fighting the federal government. Is that sort of how you're seeing it?
Yeah, and Newsom actually came out and was like, well, listen, we actually give more money to the U.S. government in terms of our tax collection than anything else. So he threatened President Trump by saying, well, maybe we're going to look at withholding us paying the U.S., the federal government, with our own finances that we typically do. And the size of 40 million, there are 40 million Americans in California, and that's not even counting all the other people. But, so when you start threatening that, you begin to see this state and federal backlash taking place. We saw that with DeSantis and the Biden administration, and we've seen it in other places before. I mean, Pritzker started to threaten. Certainly, the governor of Massachusetts, even the governor of Maine has said, get bent. We're not doing any of this stuff. So we continue to see these bouts, these disputes, and these, between the states and the federal government, which, is part of the American way.
Real quick, it looks like California pays approximately $692 billion in federal taxes annually.
Yep.
That's about 12.2% of the total U.S. federal tax revenue.
Thank you. So that's monster.
That's big.
So when you talk about political ramifications, and that leads me, and I'll have a story later about the one big beautiful bill. God, I wish I could do him better, man. I wish I could
work on it.
All right, I'm going to have to call up one of those comedians out there who do him perfectly.
Get Shane Gillis to consult you.
Oh, dude, that'd be a dream come true. They just released their latest Parks and Recreation on Joe Rogan. Listen, if you, regardless of where you're at on the aisle, whatever you think, go check out Joe Rogan, and the episode is Parks and Recreation.
Protect our parks.
Protect our parks. I'm sorry. Protect our parks, right? The Parks and Recreation was a show, right? That was with Chris Pratt back in the day. It's called Protect Our Parks. It's got 3 phenomenal comedians with Joe, and they just talk smack through this whole thing. It's hilarious. Anyways. All right. What was the SEIU number? Did you get that?
Yes, I did. Let me scroll up here. So it's a little bit scattered because the SEIU has different kind of departments or categories that it represents, but it represents about 750,000 members across the state, as noted on these different sources. Okay, but there are state employees, there's long-term care employees, there's healthcare workers, nonprofit, things like that. There's all kinds of different jobs and sectors that they represent. The annual budget for the healthcare workers, it's $140 million. For the SEIU Local 1000 and others, that is $15.7 million. And the state council, SEIU, California State Council, doesn't have a direct. The budget is not explicitly detailed, but its funding comes from its affiliate dues, so it doesn't even say. But it's in the millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions.
Well, I appreciate that because they're also one of the main PAC sponsors of all top Democratic government and politicians, state politicians, and federal politicians.
I can see in 2018 they spent. This is the number they gave me. In 2018. They spent over $39 million on political causes, so I can't imagine that's lower now.
No, it's just gonna. And so, what's interesting and what we're going to pay attention to for all you is that union that no pun intended, that union between illegals and union workers, right? And that's something, maybe we'll do a show on that in the future to really understand that.
How is there a union between those two people? It seems like they'd have conflict of interest.
That's what I'm saying. That's why that guy's arrest was the number one thing that popped for me when I was paying attention to that. But I don't have enough information. I don't know enough about it. So we'll dig into that, and then we'll talk about that in the future. All right. Next one. Operation Spider's Web. What's up, everybody? Sorry again for the interruption. I just want to tell you about this incredible 5-day challenge that we're offering on davidrutherford.com or in the link in the description. And what this is this is your Embrace Fear 5-day challenge. Now, over the past 30 years, I've spent a tremendous amount of time developing what I call the frog logic concepts. I teach people to embrace their fears, to forge their self-confidence, how to live a team life, and to ultimately live with purpose. So what we want to introduce you to is how to get going in these ideas. And so we've got this incredible 5-day Embrace Fear challenge. Again, the link is in the description. In this, there's 5 missions, 1 per day, that's going to ask you to do all different types of things, which is identify the fears which are running your life, accept the hard truth of where you are, retrain your mindset, to test your limits, and then to forge your courage to live with purpose. These involve both physical and emotional and mental aspects in terms of journaling, but I'm telling you, it's going to kickstart your mind as you begin to think about the number one emotion out of our 8 core emotions that impedes us from our successes, and that's fear. And trust me when I tell you, I've spent a lot of my life being afraid of things. When you're jumping out of a perfectly good airplane in the middle of the night, chasing 2 ducks into the middle of the ocean, you better believe you're scared. And this is the ideas that emerged out of my understanding of fear that I hope you can understand too, that will end up helping you be able to find your purpose in life. So here's the kicker. This is a free challenge. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to buy it. You don't have to download anything. All you got to do is sign up, take the challenge, and get your life back on track, being able to embrace that fear in order for you to find purpose in life. All right, enjoy. Hoo-yah. Next one. Operation Spider's Web. I got to give the Ukrainians credit for that. That's a cool op name. Now, if you don't know,
I'm all about the names.
Wow, dude, you got to have a cool operation name, right? Right? Operation Neptune Serpent, right? Operation like skull druggery. Operation. Oh, dude, I think it'd be fun just to see if I could get a list of 1,000 of the top mission names from special operations in the last 25 years. I bet they would be some that would just be awesome and some that would just be hilarious, right? Right? Operation Gonzo Lick Feed, right? Or some because you know what happens? It's the AOIC of the platoon that has to come up with some cool name when you do submit your operations to.
It's those guys just making it up.
Oh, they make it up, man.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I remember me. I was always kind of the snapper head. I'd be like, let's do Operation Purple Haze, man. And I would try and like give it some, how about Operation Beat Jazz Fest? And they'd be like, Rutherford, shut up already.
He's a hippie.
That's right. Well, I am a hippie who can kill you. So
that's right.
All right. Ukraine, Russia, tax. All right. Now, the crazy thing about all of this and the general overview that I think most people need to understand is going back to one of Trump's top campaign promises that he was going to end the war between Ukraine and Russia within the first week of being in office. Now, for me, this is probably at the top part of everything, the border, and ending these endless wars that could potentially lead to World War III. So that was the big thing for me. Now, fast forward, we have seen a tremendous amount of nefarious operating going on between Ukraine, NATO, and in particular, I think France, Germany, and England. And there's some reports coming out lately that I'm trying to confirm and dig into that England is the primary one responsible for this. And we could actually go back, there was a peace deal that was on the table between Zelensky and Putin early in the war that Boris Johnson came in, was sent in and completely destroyed that and said, you're not allowed to do that. And you also you go back recently where you have the head of the EU and all these other countries got together and committed something like $500 billion, somewhere around there. Will you look up what the European Union committed in defense spending and support to Ukraine in the next couple of years?
Yes.
So you have that going on. You definitely have NATO wanting to push the thing. And then you've got Trump like, hey, this is stupid. I just saw a number that 1 million Ukrainian young boys are dead. They crossed that threshold recently. Or was it? No, they had said 1 million Russians boys were dead. And reports are it's somewhere between 1 million now Ukrainians. And so as we were, Trump administration was working hard to get this peace negotiation going on in Turkey, attacks were taking place. And on June 1st, Ukraine launched Operation Spiderweb. This is the most significant Russian strike occurred overnight and this is where they released, what was it? How many drones? I think it was like
over 100 drones.
Over 100 drones, and they destroyed. Will you look up how many planes? And these are strategic nuclear bombing planes that, according to a treaty in the past, we had to have all of our nuclear capable plane, that can distribute nuclear warheads or bombs out in the open, and several of these things were totally just destroyed.
I remember it was about a third of them, I believe. But let me look up the number.
Wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was huge. All right. So this takes place the day before their first major peace talk meeting in Turkey. And they launched it. And it was a really cool idea. I mean, tactically, I thought I'd seen the pinnacle with the pager thing and the Israelis, had done to Hamas.
Dude.
I thought, the IDF or, the Israeli government had done that Mossad op was super cool. But this was really ingenious. And they had put in these box trucks that they had secretly gotten into Russia on the tops. They were filled with these drones. And so the roofs would come on and these drones launched internally in Russia and attacked a significant amount of strategic sites in Russia. Now, yeah, that's super cool op, by the way, and for any of you who have never planned a super cool op before, I'm here to tell you, when you can come up with something that's ingenious in that and break through enemy lines and get those devices. I mean, we're not talking, hidden in someone's backpack or in the suitcase. I mean, these are, shipping containers that were filled with these things, and they were able to. What is it? What do you got?
Right now, this is confirmed total planes destroyed. There's people who claim more than this, but confirmed total number of Russian nuclear-capable aircraft destroyed is 13 nuclear-capable aircraft destroyed and 3 Tu-22 M3 bombers damaged. So it looks like around 16.
I mean, if that's not punching the bully in the nose, I don't know what is. I mean,
that's a big dent, dude.
That's a big dent. And what resulted after this, in these talks, they show up, they get in front of each other, they talk for a little bit, and then the Russian contingency takes off. And they're like, "Now, ain't going to happen." And then Putin came out and said, "Stand by." And there was that famous Trump tweet on True Social where Trump was like, "I just got off a very beautiful, I'm going to get it, I swear, very beautiful talk with Putin. And, we had a great conversation. We're working through this." And, but he did say, and this was the highlight, there's going to be a significant response to this. And so that response happened. The Russian counterattack June 5th into 6th, described as one of the largest in a war, with Ukrainian Air Force reporting launched 407 drones and decoys, nearly 40 cruise missiles, 6 ballistic missiles across Ukraine. I've got the details, indicate 14 explosions from drones, 10 Iskander BMB ballistic missiles, 3 Caliber cruise missiles, 1 KH-31P anti-radar missiles, 14 total missiles. And it's, this was a massive attack. And the cities includes Lutsk, Volyn, Oblast, 5 people wounded. Kharkiv didn't have any battle damage assessments out of there. Mykolaiv, I don't even know how to say that, I'm sorry. Ternopil, all these cities got hammered. Says in Kyiv there were 3 deaths reported by Vitaly Klitschko. Later, 20 injuries, damage to a 16-story apartment building. Chernihiv, 14 explosions, Luz, 5 wounded. Yeah, at least 4 deaths nationwide, with 406 to 452 air attack vehicles. So my whole thing is, all right, why is this still going? And then the big backlash the following day I saw across a bunch of news sites and pundits was, did President Trump actually know this was going to take place? And if he didn't know, did the Central Intelligence Agency know? Did the National Security Agency know? Did any of the DOD assistants know? And if they did, our head's going to roll for not informing President Trump of this cataclysmic operation that took place. Because as a person that, our country has essentially been supplying them with all different types of technological capabilities, from GPS observation satellites to on-the-ground training, weapons systems, you name it. I mean, we are fully immersed in this Ukrainian debacle, if it were. But also, there's a high probability that you've got this European Union that are actively engaged in sabotaging this potential peace treaty. I think this is a lot bigger of a story. Hopefully, we'll see some more information come about regarding the collapse of peace negotiations and all this in the future. And, I'm going to try and find a top Ukraine-Russia expert to come in on the show here in the future. But that's a big story because that has bigger ramifications than most anything we can imagine, including nuclear war, as Russia also responded by flipping the switch on their nuclear readiness in pretty significant ways. So, all right. Next one. My favorite thing to talk about, right? More Epstein controversies. All right. Obviously, a few weeks ago, we had Kash Patel and Bongino go on and basically say Epstein did kill himself. They saw the video, and the response was fantastic. Sean went on Tucker's show and was just like, the two of them just laughing about it for a while. And then after that, I found it interesting that Pam Bondi came out and said, we have tens of thousands of videos that we've recovered, all this stuff. We're going through them. We want to protect the victims, obviously, but we also, we're going to find, we're going to expose, we're going to tell who was engaged in these travesties of human trafficking and all this other crazy stuff, this horrific stuff doing to these young girls. And I think all of that is really now becoming highlighted because of the expat that we saw explode yesterday on X between President Trump and Elon Musk. I think, it started all because of the one big beautiful bill that we'll talk about here in a second, but it really kind of came to a head when Elon Musk essentially said, well, guess what? I'm going to drop a bomb. And the reason why the Epstein files haven't been released because Donald J. Trump is in those. And then he finishes was like, have a nice day, DJT. Now, the kicker to this whole thing for me was when this was going down, this little X feud, right, of these, the richest man, arguably one of the most powerful men in the world the richest man versus the most powerful man in the world, acting like a little, schoolboys going at each other. Now, it's easy for me to say, there's some very massive things on the table that these two are trying to achieve in their quests, right? These are not little. This is not a game. Insane spending is not a game. A $38 trillion deficit, that's not a game. It kickstarting the American economy, shutting down the border, controlling AI, increasing spending with the defense to meet our adversarial spending. None of this is a joke. And I'm not trying to minimize it whatsoever. Trust me. I come from that world. I recognize the critical importance of all this. But the bill that this taking place, and then simultaneously, Kash Patel was on Joe Rogan, and Jamie, who's Joe Rogan's assistant, brings this up in the middle, and Joe Rogan looks over at Kash and says, "All right, are there these videos? Is he a part of it?" And Kash went into this great response saying, "Listen, if there was any evidence that the president had been involved with Epstein, don't you think the Democrats over from 2016 until now would have released that if they had access to anything like that?" They had presented that multiple times in the last 4 years. I watched many segments about CNN and other pundits, Rachel Maddow, Joy, what was Joy's last name?
Joy Behar,
Joy Behar, all the pundits out there saying they were best friends. There are articles back in the early 2000s where, Trump said, "Yeah, I know Jeffrey Epstein, good guy, loves the women just like I do, but that's not conclusive proof whatsoever that the president had anything to do. And there's also been many other accounts. Well, the reason why the president hasn't gotten embroiled in it because there is nothing there. So Kash made a great thing. Now, he did say, "I'm not going to go in and get in the middle of all that. I'm going to stay in my lane," which is a very smart thing to do. You got to know your role. That's what they used to say. That's what they used to say that me all the time in the teams, Jordy, when I would start running my suck, if you will, of my opinion as a new guy. They'd be like, shut up, Rut, know your role, And so
your role.
I thought Cash's response to that was awesome. Now, tangentially that, the vice president, because I remember I was like texting immediately some of the guys I know that are big in this space, like, hey man, you need to get JD on your show immediately. And lo and behold, where does JD Vance pop up? On the seminal deliverer of news, Mr. Theo Vaughn's show, right?
America's news source.
America. And don't get me wrong, I think Theo Vaughn is one of the most funny people on the planet. I literally will piss myself when I hear that guy make jokes. Like, it's just hilarious. But so this pops up on their show, and he asks, the head of the E4 Mafia, Mr. JD Vance. And I thought JD's response was just powerful. He looked at everybody square in the eye and he said, listen, my undevoted loyalty is to the president of the United States, always. And I support him. I know for a fact he was not part of it. I wouldn't support him if he was involved in anything like that. And then he goes, on the flip side of that, Elon Musk has been played a powerful role in our country, in the election itself, in the assistance with bringing it home. Excuse me, the assistance of bringing it home. Also, more importantly, the invention of Doge and exposure to all the waste, fraud, and abuse, which is the thing that really pulls at my heart more than any, is that all of you and me and my children, our futures are being stolen from us by this crazy amount of debt, right? And so, I thought JD's voice of reason and clarity, that he hopes that the two of them can get through this and that they can work it out, as do, I think, the majority of all of us out there as well, too. I know you think about that, you listening there on the radio right now or watching on a podcast or wherever. I know you feel the same thing. We cannot have the movement be fractionalized this quickly. Now, the reports have come out that this was all a result of the one big, beautiful bill. Give it a try, Jordy. I want to hear your do it. Come on.
A lot of people say their bill's beautiful. But this is much more beautiful. It's very beautiful, very big. Biden's was very small.
It's one, and it's
tiny
big,
bill.
and it's beautiful.
That's okay. I give like a 6.5 out of 10.
Now, yeah, but you're much better than I was. I mean, I suck at it. Well, so now as we begin to think about that, I think that's what the real challenge was for this whole thing. It's this one big, beautiful bill controversy. And I think what as I scour through, X and all the news sites on there, I must follow 50 different news sites, all the different independent journalists and pundits every day, all day. In fact, you could ask my kids. I'm addicted, and I think that's why I'm on air now doing it. Is there are some pretty significant controversies. If you look at some of what Massey's response, Representative Massey's responses, it's pretty substantial in terms of could increase our deficit $3.3 trillion over a decade due to tax cuts, while supporters claim it reduces the deficit by $6.6 trillion, citing $1.7 trillion in mandatory savings and tariff revenues. This discrepancy underscores the major fiscal controversy with stakeholders divided on its long-term impact. Now, when you have it pass the House by one vote, to me, I know the House is super close. It's an ultra-thin majority. But, to me, that in and of itself is just proof positive that, hey, man, this thing is maybe got some challenges to it. And as you dig into it, you look at the social and healthcare impacts, which essentially, from the Democrat side is going to be a potential loss of healthcare coverage, with an estimate suggesting 14 million Americans could lose coverage by 2030, primarily through Medicaid changes, right? This is going to induce work requirements, 80 hours monthly for able-bodied adults without dependents starting in December 26, and more frequently eligibility checks potentially affecting 8.6 million. Now, that's something I do agree with, right? If you're going to get support from the federal government, I think there's got to be some type of check and balance that you're trying to get work. You're trying to get out there. There's certainly enough jobs out there. I mean, just go listen to Mike Rowe any day of the week and twice on Tuesdays, right? You can go and get a job, especially now that we're deporting hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of illegal immigrants. All those construction jobs are available. All that other stuff is available. All right. And now, the question is not that there aren't enough jobs available. It's now you get into, well, what is the mental health of these people receiving benefits? What is the taxation? Do they have too many kids? Do they have all this? But I think that's a big deal. Like, how many people are going to be affected for sure? Another major thing is tax cuts, right? An estimated $1.5 trillion in tax breaks for the top 5%. Now, Jordy, how many people in the United States pay taxes, and what is the overwhelming majority of taxes? Who pays those? Could you look that up for me?
Yes. Hey, I did some interesting numbers, some math real quick while this is loading. So if you look at the national debt situation, I use some rough numbers of $37 trillion in U.S. debt right now. We have about 330 million-ish people in the U.S., right? That is about $112,000 per American.
Wow.
Right now. And if you look at the number of Americans who have a net worth of over $100,000, you're talking in the 20s, 30%, something like that. So almost all Americans would have to give up either more than or everything they own with what they owe, we owe right now in national
to knock
debt.
that down. And I think that's where the frustration comes with the American public right now is one, we're getting taxed through the roof, but yet they keep adding more deficit spending. Okay, thank you so much for listening today. Pardon the interruption, but I just got to give a shout out to one of our big sponsors here, and this comes from my good friend Alex, who has a family-owned business called Firecracker Farm. When I talk about family business, and I've worked with thousands of family businesses across the country for the last 20 years of public speaking, it's when I meet them and I know that this business is going to succeed and it's successful because it's a business that's a part of love and their family and how they support each other. This is that place. I've been to their farm. I watch how they raise their peppers with love. I watch how they process them in this thing they call the Three Kings, and how they infuse them into this beautiful salt, this spicy salt that enhances your food. I put it on my eggs every single morning. I put it on my steak. I put it on my protein. It's in these cool salt shakers, but more so that the product is impeccable. I've even been able to phase out ultra processed sauces, hot sauces, and I'm using this spicy salt. But the thing I know is just how much Alex loves doing this, how much his family loves to support him, and really the quality of the product. So if you believe me and you trust what I'm telling you, please visit firecracker.farm. And if you want a discount, you can type in the discount code RUT, R-U-T, Romeo Uniform Tango 15 to get your discount. Again, a family-owned business that's incredible. You will love their product, I promise you. That's firecracker.farm. Now, the pundits, the Stephen Millers of the world, the Steve Bannons of the world, they're out there and saying, hey, listen, we got to bite the bullet up front in order to get the economy cooking, in order to be able to increase development, increase production, increase all these different industries to bring back jobs in order to be able to facilitate cuts in the long-term downrange. that makes sense, I guess. I'm definitely not an economist. We're going to get a top economist up on in the next few weeks who's going to try and explain all this. We've got hopefully an interview scheduled with this individual next week. I don't want to spoil it. And he's going to break this whole thing down for us in detail. The other aspects in there that, really kind of stuck out to me were one, it is going to potentially get rid of the $200 tax stamp on suppressors. So woohoo!
Shout out.
Right now, that is going to be awesome. We won't have to file for that. We can just go over the counter, buy a little suppressor for our weapon system. So suppressor, if you're invested in any company making suppressors right now, stand by. Love that if this thing passes. The other one that really kind of shocked me was this AI component of it, right? Hold on. Definitely some student loan fixing on there, right? The bill increases tax on some university endowments to 21%. So all you people that have been getting away crazy by raising your rates on your college tuitions because you got these huge endowments and government's giving you $9 billion, well, guess what? Welcome to the real world with your 21% tax on that, which I love. I dig that one. They're getting rid of, I love this one. Environmentally, the bill eliminates Inflation Reduction Act clean energy tax credits. Now, there are some people that's going to affect over 300,000 jobs. But, the whole climate thing, I'm leaning toward the majority of that just being a scam. But I do know that some of these, right here, what does it say? Since with $321 billion invested since August 2022, creating over 300,000 jobs, 2,300 new facilities. I'd love to know what the facilities are. Another $522 billion and 686,000 jobs at risk, right? But I want to know, we all know that from the Obama, what was that, that solar panel, energy company that got $400 million that went bankrupt 4 times and still got more. So there's a lot of that out there. So I'm not losing sleep over there.
Wow. How bad you got to be to go bankrupt 4 times with that check?
Oh, dude, you got to suck through and through.
Try.
That's what it is. I mean, you got to suck.
Yeah.
All right. Now, this was the one that really popped on me. And this was the legislative context about the AI oversight clause. And MJT, well, a bunch of people presented, but MJT got on it. And then some other folks, Massey's gotten on it. All right. And so this is the AI oversight provision is located in section 43201 of the bill, specifically in Title 4, Subtitle C, Part 2. It imposes a 10-year moratorium on state and local governments enforcing, in quotations, any law or regulation, end quote, concerning artificial intelligence models, AI systems, or automated decision systems. This means that for a decade from the date of enactment, states cannot regulate AI, with certain exceptions outlined in the bill. Now, I don't know what kind of shenanigan that is, but not giving the states, which we already know play a pivotal role in keeping the federal government in check, I think that's the most absurd thing in the planet, right? AI is hands down the most rapidly intimate thing that is affecting our way of life day in and day out. And when you look at some of the government contracts that are emerging out there with Palantir and some of these other, whether it's Microsoft, their AI building into their operating systems, when you look at Oracle and the deals that we're doing there, and you should dig into all of these deals, you have the federal government really leaning into these AI platforms, right? And how they're going to use them, how they're going to aggregate data, how they're going to do all this. Well, now they're saying, well, guess what? You can't do anything. If you don't like what they're doing, then the head of the state, a governor of a state, Congress, state Senate, they can't pass laws in the state that can stop the U.S. government and begin to try and regulate those AI initiatives. And they're substantial. I mean, there's some real money that is going to be dedicated in this bill towards spending on that type of thing. In particular, all right, here you go. Ready? Department of Defense, $124 million for the Test Resource Management Center to enhance AI capabilities, $250 million for Cyber Command AI lines of effort, $200 million for AI and automation to accelerate Department of Defense financial statement audits. I like that one, but what can that also be implemented on? All right, Department of U.S. Customs Border Patrol, $1 billion for non-new intrusive inspection equipment, AI integration, machine learning, and other mission support, combat illicit narcotics. So those are tactical implementations of AI, right? Department of Health and Human Services, $24 million redirected to implement AI tools for reducing, recouping improper medical parts A and B payments. All right. So yeah, but what they don't tell you is what else can it be applied for? And I think, there's massive. We also know that this one big, beautiful bill is going to increase defense spending, which I'm okay with right now. We have a major issue going on with China's development. Russia is becoming more proficient at modern combat than anybody on the planet. Some argue that Ukraine is. I don't believe that for a second. I think we're supporting their capabilities. We're training them. We're helping them. We're all that. The EU is too. But also you have Iranian development is increasing off the charts. You have the whole BRICS kind of union increasing. All these other places, the terrorist organizations are gaining access to all this development. So I'm okay with spending as long as, here comes the kicker, we can keep Doge in there to get rid of all the corrupt, wasteful spending. That goes back to the core of what this whole thing started with, was this ridiculous spat between Elon Musk and President Trump. What I hope is that Elon Musk takes a break, puts his phone back, comes back, and reassesses how politics work. Obviously, he's pretty pissed off because of the last administration and the politics of going after him and his companies at the way they did. I mean, there was like 12 investigations against his company. But more so like, hey, listen, we've got to put all those differences aside and recognize that there are different ways to move forward. Now, I will say it is a little depressing to me. Depressing. Is that the right word I'm using? Depressed? Probably not depressing. It is a little aggravating to me that they came in on, massive cuts. But before they do it, just like they said with the tariffs, and I'm still rolling with tariffs, I'm still there. They're saying, hey, we're going to bump this up in order to lower it later. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to trust you. But I will tell you this. With the Epstein stuff, with the corruption from previous administration. I mean, one thing Cash went on to say is they found this room, Dan Bongino said this on Fox and Friends, they found a room with all this hidden evidence and all this, and now they have exposure. And Cash went on, was talking about Comey and his cohorts during Rushgate. They were leaking, McComb and all these were leaking information real time. They were the source of all those leaks during that whole thing. When, just like I said before, who's responsible and when are going to see some convictions. So if you come out and you say you're going to do one thing, and then you start doing the other things that have the appearance of not really being in line with what everybody else wants and what we voted for, I'm sorry, man, you're going to have some pushback. And unfortunately, it happened between a guy that's going to colonize other planets, has invented self-driving cars, autonomous robots, the most significant telecommunication satellite platform in the world in Starlink, and then also has developed one of the most significant AI platforms in the world. That's not the guy you want to argue with. And inversely, Mr. Musk, I'm a big fan, but Donald J. Trump went through hell and back to get where he's at. And so this type of drawing lines in the sand is probably not a good idea. What we would love is to have you guys sit down, have a peace talk. I'll broker it if you want. Although I think the ultimate person on the planet right now would be Joe Rogan, to have those two on the internet together, which would shatter the internet for all time. I would love to see that. So what I want you to do right now, if you're listening, I want you to call your local switchboard of your congressman, your senator, your federal employees. Send Kash Patel, send Pam Bondi, send Pete Hegseth, send all these people, send the president as many tweets and emails and direct messages as you can, phone calls, begging them to get on the Joe Rogan show and work this thing out. Joe can be like a marriage counselor. What do you think, Jordy? Is that a good idea?
I think it's a good idea. It's the second best idea. The best idea would be you take Donald Trump and Elon Musk out to the shooting range for a little range day.
Dude.
I think it would unite the country. I think it would unite the country.
All things can be solved on a shooting range. One simple El Presidente test, and that's it. And we go back to normal, right? That's brilliant, Jordy. I love that. Well, so that's what I got from last week. I know it's a truck ton. Once again, our mission on the David Rutherford show is to consolidate, aggregate, and make sense of the tsunami of information you're going, and also to be a flashbang of truth in there. For me to give my certainly no expert opinion on anything, but I've been around the world once or twice, and I pay attention pretty closely, and I have some insights that I hope you enjoy. We're really blessed, Jordy, myself, and Jana. We couldn't be more thankful with how you've been tuning in. The numbers are unbelievable for us. Please go out and tell a friend. If you do like the show, whatever platform, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. That helps us grow. It helps us get in the system, in all of the algorithms, and pushes us up. We would appreciate that as well. If you want to follow the show, simply go to any social media platform, and it's at David Rutherford Show. Also, we're on Patreon. On X, it's at D Rutherford Show. That's a little subtle difference there, but we're on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on X, we're on YouTube. Please go there. We'd love to have you join our subscribership there. Patreon as well. Substack. We've got a weekly newsletter that you can sign up for on our Substack page, or go to the website at davidrutherford.com. And there you can also begin to sign up. We're beginning to release some online curriculum here soon. You can take our 5-day Embrace Fear Challenge, which is awesome. We had a bunch of people sign up for the early release last week. And then just stand by for all different. And the other thing is too, what if you have a tip, a story, whether it's local, state, or national, please, I would love for you to just send us a note right on the website. And let us know about the story, and one of our people will contact you, and we'll investigate this a little bit. And if it's legit, we'll do the story live. And if you break the story and you want to come on, we'll be happy to have you on. All independent journalists out there, if you've got a great story, contact us. And I'll put you on the microphone, man. I mean, that's what the modern evolution of this whole thing is about. That's what modern media is, to make you are the purveyor of news. You have access. Whatever you've heard, whatever you know, if you can prove it, man, we want to support you and bring that news. I don't care if it's left, right, middle, up, down. I don't care. All I care about is the truth, and the truth getting out to the people of this country, right? That 80% of us that are in the middle, that 80% of us that believe in what America represents. And I'll tell you what it represents. And I'm going to tell you right now, and I'm going to read this because the other day was June 6th, and it was the 81st anniversary of D-Day. Now, this comes from an infantryman's account on the sappers on D-Day on 6 June 1944. So I'm going to read this to you. This was his recall. Quote, "The entire beach and hillside was covered with obstacles. A unit of sappers had gone ahead to find where the mines were. Those guys were smack in the middle of it. German bullets coming down from up top and our bullets going back the other way, with mortars landing everywhere. They moved in pairs. If one went down, his partner picked up his kit and kept moving. They didn't call for a single medic. They just kept crawling up the beach as far as they could until they couldn't go anymore. You could see them pulling themselves up the hillside even after their legs got shattered from the explosions. I remember all their bodies had marker flags sticking out of them. The dirt was too loose to hold their flags up, and the blast would have knocked them over. So the guys had shot themselves up with morphine and stuck the flags into their legs. When you got to one that was still breathing, he would tell you where it was safe to step. They were about 25 yards apart when I got to the base of the hill, and I took a quick look back, and that's when I saw it. Those sappers had made a trail with their own bodies. Now, how do you not keep going after something like that? In the face of everything we have to deal with day in and day out, I don't want you to lose faith in what America is, because those men still represent America today. They're still out on the front lines all over the world. They most certainly were there in the GWAT. I served with them. I stood side by side with them. And they had an impact. And even though some of the aspects of why we were overseas sometimes are challenging to stomach nowadays, there's not a single day I ever doubted any of the men that were next to me. They were what America represents. They embodied the spirit of those men on June 6, 1944. So in all of your worries and all of what's happening out there, never lose faith in that American spirit. God bless America. Booyah.